everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for week 12 of Survivor 48. My name is Mike Bloom. This was our last regular episode proper of Survivor 48, and what an episode to break down. We finally reached this mythical six that this group had been pushing towards for the past few weeks. Happened afterwards, and got a big dose of it that could possibly set up a very sudden shift in maybe some winner equity moving into our 3-hour finale. Of course, I am Mike. We have assembled today a legendary panel, and I say that because we got legs and we got Gary too. Of course, I'm always joined by Liana Boraas. Liana, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing well. I really enjoyed this episode for a lot of different reasons. So I think for the first time in a couple weeks, I'm finally excited to really talk about this. But yeah, and also, of course, absolutely excited to podcast again with our guest this week.
I was going to say, how could you not be,
I know.
considering that, look, we got a big dose of Big Brother news this past week, so he's getting himself prepared for it, as we also talk about what I've said is the past couple of weeks as one of the most Big Brother-y seasons of Survivor we've gotten in some time. But, of course, he has his hands full as well over on the RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 10 recap, as well on WeKnowRealityTV.com. It is the great Aman Adwin.
Hello, I am so glad to be back. I feel like I haven't podcasted about Survivor in a long time. So it's good to be back on familiar stomping ground. We just before the podcast we talked about how the last time I was on the B&B was back in the fall of 2019. So it's been a long time. So I'm glad to be back, and what a crazy season to jump back in on. And I'm kind of excited to just catch up with it and see how you guys have been feeling about everything.
Which is fun because there's been certainly a lot of discourse. I feel a smidge undeserved of like, is this one of the worst seasons of Survivor in some time? And Aman, we sort of like, unfroze you, cryogenically speaking, from our B&B guest list from the Island of the Idols season. So it really is all about context being king here.
Yeah. So I think I'm a little higher on this season than a lot of people are. It's not even that I enjoy it like more so than most other seasons of I was about to say Big Brother of Survivor. I guess I just don't have the same issues with it. Maybe I'm a little I went back to school recently, a little bit of life update. So like maybe I'm not as like in it to like really have as much as intense feelings because I've kind of had my hands full a little bit. So it's kind of like more like just like escape viewing for me. But yeah, I'm like having a good time. Yeah, there's the whole Eva and Joe thing that's a little annoying, but like I'm having a good time. Like I'm Survivor to me.
And I think I agree with you, Aman. I mean, I think obviously I've had some complaints and some issues with what we've seen on the season so far. Who doesn't? Like, who hasn't, even for the best seasons? But for me, I think especially this episode, I think it really sets up a super interesting finale because now we're going in with two duos. But one duo maybe has some more cracks and one Mitch maybe has some more cracks than the other. And I think it's going to make for a very interesting end game. And I think that this episode also was super interesting. It just was a little bit unfortunate that we had to have two kind of episodes of a little bit of nothing before, or maybe three even, before we got, an episode that was quite substantial.
And that's the thing, is that what's tough in especially the 90-minute episodes is that it's 3 episodes, but it's also 4.5 hours of content, And so I think very understandably so, especially given the real oddities that have come with the storytelling the past couple of weeks. It was a lot of, what are we doing here? What are we pushing towards? And I was really riveted by this week. Not only, of course, in, I would say, a pretty shocking boot here in Shaheen. Yes, of course, there is the entire thing when you look at it from a larger perspective of like, why didn't we get rid of Joe and Eva? They're still in there. They're the front runners. But like, I don't know. Maybe this is wishful thinking to have a little bit more of an even playing field. But like, I feel like Joe's winner equity especially took a major hit going into the finale, considering that one of the reasons why Kyle and Camilla do what they do, besides the fact that Joe wins immunity and Eva is pretty much safe via an idol, is the fact that if the narrative that has been pushed by everyone on the way out so far has been Joe and Eva were in control of each and every vote, they were the one that dictated who went, on paper, if one of them at least were able to sit on day 26 and be like, yeah, remember when we mind freaked Joe into getting rid of his number one ally by just making up a lie and convincing him it was the truth? I don't know, it's pretty damning on that resume.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a blemish. I mean, I think he's had, as far as like production is concerned, a really nice, cool, clean, integrity-based game. He's got like the family man thing going on. He's got his island daughter and Eva. There's so many emotional moments. Even Shaheen, when he gives him the chance to come on the reward trip with him, just talks about how he's just like this amazing stand-up guy. And of course, that's great to see. And I've enjoyed Joe as a character on the show. But, when you sort of lock yourself into that type of style of game, it does sort of leave room for other people to be a little bit more underhanded and to sort of usurp your position as maybe a more active player, because people that often are like viewed as like, oh, I'm the stand-up guy, I'm the honest guy, you can trust me all the way to the end. They're not always viewed as menacing or as like cutthroat as other players. And I think in this new age of Survivor, I think the cutthroatedness is always gonna just edge out like upstanding guys. Nice guys finish last in Survivor, okay? Not all the time, but a lot of the time they do. They just do.
I don't know. I don't think this is so bad for Joe. I feel like even the edit could have gone so much harder in on him. Like, because they gave him so much positive content obviously we get to see the full story of his sister and the moment on the beach, and we'll get into all of that. But you have all of that personal content balanced out, not really by, oh, he got duped. Like, I felt like the weird edit at Tribal Council with the zoom in on Joe while he was thinking, like contemplating. I almost felt like that was the producers trying to give him credit for, oh, but he's thinking about it. Like, he's not going to get like super duped because he's like really considering all the options at Tribal Council. And then I'm wondering if Joe in Final Tribal can just be like, yeah, Kyle got one over on me. That was the one move he got over on me, whereas I ran the whole rest of the season. Like, I think there's a universe where if Joe just owns up to like being outplayed in that one moment, that doesn't discredit the whole rest of the rounds that he played. I think it's just a matter of owning up to it. Because I think back to Mike Turner as well.
Yeah.
Like Mike Turner being the example of, well, if he just owned up to it, whatever. And obviously it's slightly different for him, but it's just really how you sell it at Final Tribal Council.
But I think you bring up a very salient point in that I think there is a chance that, and granted, I think with 42, we saw more of like Mike's personal relationships and how this wasn't just one betrayal. Like, he betrayed he betrayed, he betrayed Omer, obviously. So like there was a string that he kind of had to speak to that he unfortunately did it. And it seems to be a similar case with Joe. Like, yes, you can make the argument, Liana, that it's like, yes, you could sort of abdicate to the fact that Kyle and Camilla, I should say, snowed you. And I think Joe is very humble enough to admit to that over maybe some of the more overweening people that are in his archetype. But you had people like Star, like David, who Joe also burned, who would need some answers from as well. And so I do think there is still a part of what you were speaking to in terms of a previous instance that he might have to speak to depending on what energy this jury is coming in with.
Yeah, and I think, there's definitely been sort of this whole dialogue that I've seen online so far of, oh, Kyle just won the game. Because I kind of got spoiled for how the ending in this episode, because I caught the episode a little later. And so when I saw that everyone was like, oh my God, Kyle just won. I was like, what happened? Okay, I got to watch the episode now to see what did he just do that won him the game. I'm like, oh, okay, so he duped Joe. But I do think that, to your point, Liana, there was a lot, even before the Tribal Council, he was like, I got to figure out, why is this person telling me this information? How does it stand to benefit them? Like, let me pull the whole, dad routine, or is one of my kids lying to me? So he definitely was thinking about it. But then I also think about, damn, like, the other people that he burned, like Mike said, and also, like, damn, Shaheen just took you on this damn a reward, and this is how he goes out. It just feels so, it feels so just like so wrong. But like, I understand.
This cast loves Joe. They just love
They do.
Joe.
They love him.
And I'm just
like, Joe.
even Shaheen at the, I mean, I'm just imagining him still voting for Joe at
Oh, he
the end.
100% will, because Shaheen also took his vote out as a badge of honor. This was not a David situation where it's like, dude, I was loyal to you. Shaheen, remember, and has, elaborated more on it in his exit press, thought he could beat everybody, including Joe and Eva. So for him, it was more so
exactly.
like, you got rid of the one person that would beat you in the end. Kudos to you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing. Like, I don't think he'll take it that bad. And then for Star and Mary, for example, I don't know. I mean, was Star, like, again, I just don't have a sense of whether or not Star was ever made to feel like she was part of that group, because that's the thing is, like, if you know you're on the outs and you know that you're going home, you're not going to feel necessarily as betrayed. You might be frustrated that people didn't choose to work with you, but I feel like then you're more likely to take that out on the people who you felt like were on the bottom and should have made a move. People like Kyle, people like Camilla. You're not going to take that out on Joe. I'm going to be, this is my complete copium as a consequence of having Joe in the Survivor draft, but I'm like,
Jopium.
my Jopium. I'm having a cup of Jopium because, like, I still really want Joe.
No, I mean, no, it's incredibly valid though. Like, I saw a lot of people post after this episode, despite, again, Joe by far being the most kneecapped this season, maybe besides Thomas going home in this past episode, of like, Joe has one of the biggest main character edits for a winner in Survivor history. And I could certainly see that. I mean, let's talk about the brave Hunter S. Thompson moment in the middle of Tribal Council where everything gets tuned out and Joe is just, I don't know if he's like zoning out and it's just kind of like, thinking about, did I leave the stove on at home 20 something days ago? But I think, for a cultured connoisseur such as myself who watches international seasons of Survivor, it honestly didn't seem that weird to me, because they actually did something very similar in Australian Survivor this past season, where there were these big live tribal councils where people would get together in groups and like start whispering to each other, and then they actually, from an audio perspective, like muted everybody else, like muffled them essentially, and used that underwater effect. And so I understand, again, this is the first time American Survivor is doing it. And so it's a lot of attention given to like, what the hell was that? Did I just trip shrooms briefly with, my usually Wednesday night charcuterie plate? And on the other hand, it could be like, wow, they're really presenting everything from Joe's perspective here. And so I do think there is a large tail, to your point, Liana, that could lead to a Joe win here. But I could also see a world where it's just, hey, this was a fun storytelling thing that we wanted to do, that this was Joe's decision no matter where he places. And so we're going to quite literally get in his head and then subsequently showcase that maybe his head is not in the right place in many different ways.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's still a universe where, either Kyle or Camilla could pull out the win. I think, though, what's also very interesting is to think about, Camilla had a confessional, I want to say it was in the Next Time On, that was something about like, we can't sit next to each other or something like that. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. Because
maybe she's talking about the Tribal Council seating chart. Like, oh, Kyle, we can't sit next to each other. They don't know we're working together.
Yeah, no one knows we're working together. And no one knows we're working together.
Yeah, I don't know how impressive everyone else is going to find the two of them working together, because it really has been a huge part of both of their stories. I feel like we get at least 2 confessionals, one for each of them, every episode, about like, I'm working with Camilla, I'm working with Kyle, it's just the Kyle and Camilla show. And I'm like, at the end, is this really going to have the payoff that they wanted to have, assuming they even both make it to Final Tribal Council?
Aman, allow me to really just lay out a lore here and see if I can catch something in just a few days' time. I think Kyle and Camilla being a secret duo is to Survivor 48, as Sue not being 45 to Survivor 47. I think if one or both of them is indeed in the end and they make this big revelation, it will be met with stone faces from the jury, or them parroting back, yeah, we knew. We just, that's what Shaheen, and granted, hindsight's 2020. We've had a string of these exit interviews where people were like, yeah, of course I clocked that Kyle and Camilla were working together. Shaheen, the most recent example, being like, I actually had something secret going on with Camilla. It's just that I didn't call it out because they were working together to my betterment. So yeah, I'm intrigued as to why this has been such a big part of the narrative. If indeed it was the case that people were clocking it in the moment, it might just be that if the two of them either get thrown into fire and full fire making against each other, or they sit in the end together, then it's like, look what these two were able to do and what they were able to work over the course of 26 days.
Yeah, or maybe something also to the effect of, oh, if the one has to betray the other or something like that, and whether or not that's in Final Four fire making or at 5. Yeah, and then Mitch is also there. So come on, Mitch.
I feel so bad for Mitch. Oh my god, he got such a beautiful introduction to the Survivor universe, and he's got such an inspiring story with struggling with a stutter and everything. And I was like, oh my god, this is this is something new for Survivor. I know a couple people that stutter in my life. So was like, oh, this is nice to see a little representation. Like they're just as capable as anybody else, and it's just been
yeah, I guess that's the thing. Is would you rather? This is a big would you rather, big Jeff style. Would you rather be Mitch? Mitch's edit 2 episodes ago, where it was he was vocalizing to us why he wasn't making a move and everyone got pissed at him, or would you rather be the Mitch of the past couple episodes where we just haven't seen him at all?
I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, I guess I would rather just, you know what? He just because he's coming up with this big, bravado story doesn't mean that he can't just be as bad as everybody else. So you know what? I guess I'd rather him. I guess I'd rather him just fail, but fail in a beautiful way. Just.
That's so funny. No, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, I love the producers building up. Yeah, he's just as capable as everybody else. And you know what else? He's just as capable of being bad at the game as well.
Yeah, he's I'm playing with a bunch
beautiful.
of knuckleheads. And it's I can't think of a better example of when you point one finger for pointing back at you than that Mitch soundbite.
Spider-Man meme. Yeah. And I mean, I think also when he was mad at Shaheen for taking, I mean, I do understand the whole fueling Joe thing. But again, Shaheen seemed okay with Joe, right? So it probably wasn't an issue for him.
That's the thing.
It's
Shaheen
just so funny.
Despite what he was sort of floating out to Kyle, it really did seem like Shaheen was totally fine going to the end with Joe and Eva. So he had no problem feeding Joe as much stuff as possible because if anything, he wants to feed his ego so that he takes him to the final 3 and then Shaheen sweeps him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and especially if he thinks if Joe and Eva might split some votes, right, then that could also be advantageous for Shaheen, and then he can come in and win. So, I mean, from his perspective, I totally understand that plan. I totally understand why you would go forward with it. But yeah, it was just funny that Mitch was so frustrated.
Yeah, I want to talk about that Eva thing actually for a second because, I mean, our antennae always perk up as Survivor fans, right? Whenever we see someone, which I'm sure they talk about this all the time, but that it makes the edit that someone's like, oh, so-and-so doesn't have a chance of winning, or so-and-so has a greater chance of winning against this person. And we see that one of the reasons why Shaheen doesn't want to target Eva, at least what he vocalizes to Kyle and Camilla, is, well, I think people can beat her in the end. And I wonder how much of that was true versus Shaheen just blowing smoke. I mean, there's a secret scene this week that for many reasons indicates to me that Eva is probably not going to win this game, where for those of you who don't see, she really has a bit of a breakdown in this particular round because she says that I'm someone who has relied on my physical stature the entirety of the game. And I believe the quite literal quote that she ends up using is, my low physical strength is definitely destroying my mental strength too. I don't think I can do anything else in this game other than wait and hope. So it could be maybe they're focusing the lack of cognition edit on the wrong person. There might be a possibility that Eva is just shutting down from a pure nutritional perspective, and that's really getting in her head. And so as a result, she is definitely easing off the gas a lot more than her partner in crime in Joe. And that's one of the reasons why he's perceived, I think, as the winner out of the two if they sat in the end together.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting journey for Eva because, obviously she has this wonderful story and message in, dealing with her autism and learning how to relate to others and, navigate some of the missed social cues and all of that. But I do think that as beautiful as that story is and as wonderful it is to watch her get the support, you also can't help but still think, is now issue 2 reliant on other factors in the game, whereas I might not have to deal. Maybe I don't have the same struggles that she does, but where does that struggle end and like her skill actually begin? And for her to be as self-aware as she is, to realize like, oh, look, I'm kind of at my limit right now. You know, I think that that's great, but it's also still like, yeah, I mean, we all see you struggling too, and I feel like you are getting a lot of help here. So where do we begin to critique your game and reward other people that are kind of stepping in? So it's been interesting watching that.
Well, and I think also to that same point, like some of the castaways might not even be asking themselves that question because Eva is in such a clearly defined duo. And, you know, when you have two people who are in a duo with maybe, I guess, Dom and a Wendell would be the only exception, you know, people have a tendency to drift towards one and see one person as more of the leader of that duo, regardless of how both people are contributing. And so Joe just automatically takes that spot. So then I think people might even just, you know, brush over Eva and just thinking like, oh, she's just Joe's sidekick. So you don't even have to think about, oh, what did Eva bring to the game? What is she doing that's unique? Because you've already slotted her in that position.
It's so funny because like you see someone like Eva on the show, you play with someone like Eva in the game, and some of your impulse is to automatically be like, oh my god, like I want to support her, I want to be a part of the journey, like we see Star in many episodes ago give her, you know, an advantage and everything. And so you're like sort of like building up this legend in Eva, and then all of a sudden a couple weeks go by and you're like, ooh, we gotta get rid of one of these guys. Like, this is not good. And it's like, well, you kind of created that monster, and so it's kind of
you pulled the switch on the Frankenstein-esque lab right now to bring this to life.
Right. And it's like, as Eva, it's also kind of like what do you like? Because obviously you're not going to say no to people showering you with love and advantages. So at some point you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take this. But then it's kind of like, now your profile is automatically heightened. You didn't necessarily ask for that, but now you kind of have to play at this sort of like higher level because people are going to expect it of you now because all eyes are on you. So it's like, how do you sort of like navigate that? And then the minute that you do fall back, or the minute that you do have these moments of weakness where you're like, I am done, I'm spent, everyone is just going to see it as like, well, you kind of been skating through this entire time anyway. So it's such an interesting thing to have to deal with.
Yeah, and I don't know. I would not be surprised if there was like a non-zero chance that Star had that in mind when she gave that title of like, this is a big old game of hot potato, and you've held on to this spud for way too long. So, because it's also, Liana, you and I brought up last week the Xander comparison, right? Of like, why is no one getting rid of Eva if she has an idol? Maybe it's because even if she has an idol, no one's necessarily feeling like she's dangerous enough to get rid of. I do want to go back briefly to, you mentioned this before, Liana, but Joe going into dad mode with Shahid. I am never one to admonish or criticize anyone's parenting skills, but this passive-aggressive BS would drive me insane. Like, it's the entire situation where someone comes into a conversation with you and is like, do you know why I'm mad at you? And you're like, I don't know. Listen, look at my own mental deficiencies. I could come up with a laundry list of reasons why any person is mad at me at any point in time. Do you want me to start going through the compendium at this point? And also the fact is, this really reminds me of like some of these social strategy games where, again, they come in with this incredibly well-placed lie. Shaheen brings this up in my interview that like, Joe was in an incredibly vulnerable place, just given all the closure he reached with his sister following the letters. And so they're like, oh, let's slip right that in under the doormat, see if we can, get our foot in the door in that way. And so Joe is trying to get Shaheen to admit to something that he doesn't have, that he didn't tell anybody about. So Joe's like, he failed my test. Dude, the test was in algebra, and you're in history class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No amount of studying was going to help me pass with this. And it's so annoying because if I were Shaheen, I would be so heated because my mind would instantly go to, okay, I fed your ass. I gave you burgers and love. This sounds like you are looking for a reason to just get rid of me. And so I guess like me inviting you on this reward really meant nothing to you. And that's where, I mean, I think Shaheen really took it on the chin. You know, we all saw how he left on tribal council. So like, you know, more power to him. But that's how I would react to that. So I was sort of like, you know, you're right, Mike, that he was sort of like in a vulnerable position. He had just, you know, he's having, this is an emotional episode for Joe.
Yeah.
So like, I give it to him there. And it is the end. So like anybody is willing to flip at this point. It is final 6. Like, you know, people are thinking about, they're smelling the money. But, you know, like you said, think about when and why and where someone is telling you this. And so just this, all of this like heat that he had for Shaheen, I'm like, damn, like, whew, buddy.
Also, not for nothing, the exact same thing happened when y'all were on a tribe together with Kyle and Camilla pulling the wool over your eyes and working together. So I'm like, okay, come on, Joe, you know this, but you got to give credit to Kyle because we see both Camilla and I think Joe obviously side with Kyle socially because that was the thing. It was like, who do you trust more? And they were more sussy of Shaheen for, I don't know, whatever reason. I guess Shaheen gives like sussy energy, but they were willing to side with Kyle despite the fact that Kyle had pulled the wool over their eyes with Camilla, which they both do exactly here in this moment. So it's like, okay, come on, Joe. But yeah, that whole interaction with Joe going up to Shaheen, oh my God, it was horrible. It was so funny, though.
It was so good. It was so good. I mean, like, Shaheen at his best, as much as I love the positive presence that he had on the way out and continues to do so through looking back on the experience, in my opinion, the best Shaheen is incredulous Shaheen. Specifically, like, every time he has a reaction to the Joe paranoia that we experienced last episode and this episode, it's so good. You know, him talking about how this is supposed to be the fun part of Survivor, but I feel like I shit in your pancakes or piss in your Cheerios or whatever. Or that confessional where he's like, cheer up, buddy. You get to walk around with your shirt off. Not all of us are lucky.
It was such a nice, like, PG rated version of being like, bitch, get your ass on. Like,
that plus his Joe impression, which honestly pretty spot on. Like I really,
like the Cro-Magnon
was so good. But I mean, for me, the biggest question mark, I was just like, Joe, just straight up ask him. Now, obviously, the key thing is like, oh, well, if the answer is yes, you're going to spook him and he's going to play it. And then fine, whatever, you get out Mitch or like whatever, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It just felt like, I guess I understand the logic. Also remembering, like, even though they did just have the reward, they're also sleep deprived and food deprived. And I think about whenever I have conflict with Puya and we have to have a rational adult human conversation. And even when I'm rested and well fed, that can be challenging. So I do understand that as well. But it really made for great TV. This was such a good episode.
Well, there is also another factor that could come into play that maybe was not as apparent the first time I watched this. But I think there's a non-zero chance that really Kyle and Camilla know how to put on a show. This was the second time they got to do so. What if they added some props here? And I give them props for what they were able to do because there was one opportune moment where as Camilla is dramatically telling the tale of Shaheen allegedly approaching her with this idol, crack! A palm branch falls behind her. Joe grabs her, brings her out of the way. I think there might be a sizable chance that Kyle, just hiding in the background, waiting for the right moment for him to hack at that tree so the branch comes tumbling down, because it's a win-win in my opinion. Either, if the conversation's going horribly, this is a great distraction of like, all right, let's reset the conversation. You know, if things aren't going terribly well, let's put Camilla's life in danger, and then maybe that'll help Joe get back to square one. Or this is the metaphoric crack of lightning. You can't control the weather in Survivor, but you can control the foliage.
That was where my mind went. The minute that shit happened, I was like, "Oops, see, God don't look ugly. You over here lying your ass off. You about to get struck down." Like my semi-religious ass would have been like, "Ooh, okay,
God is coming for you."
Swayed by God.
That is so funny. I mean, and look, you know, it was a very emotional episode for Joe, talking about how he couldn't protect his sister. It's just playing on that. He's trying to protect Camilla with the tree falling on her. But yeah, no, I love that. They go all out, you know, balls to the wall.
I mean,
and that now that we're talking about it again, like that is really, I was kind of impressed about the whole, okay, well, let's go to Camilla and let's have her double down in this lie. Let's contextualize this. Let's give this more flavor, more story. Let's have two people tell it the same story, but in a little different ways from different points of view, because then it really just solidifies in Joe's head, okay, yeah, this has to be, there's got some legs to this,
Yeah.
So.
And not to mention, again,
Mhm.
given the emotionality of the reward, I imagine there was some time when Joe had to go, be off by himself, very understandably so at the reward. And that's where we get that Shaheen Kyle thing where Shaheen's like, I just want to talk all the options out loud. I'm on Seamless at this moment, and I need to talk through, do I want Chinese? What am I feeling for Chinese? Okay, with pizza, I feel like I might want olives. Do I want olives? And Kyle's like, yeah, just give me the entire menu because I'm going to serve you up a blindside pie right now. And so it also helps the narrative where, again, Kyle could easily say, yeah, when you were gone for X amount of time, Shaheen pulled me aside and said this to me. And Joe is able to at least have that time frame to kind of corroborate with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the timing was definitely weird for everything. I also felt like there was also a universe. I mean, there were so many moments where I thought this whole plan wasn't going to work. Like, I felt
it's Operation Italy 2.0 in that way. It's like, surely honestly, this must fail.
There's no way this is actually going to work, because I felt, oh my God, you guys are overcooking with the beads. Like, don't even bother. Just say like Shaheen wanted to turn. That should be enough. Why are you going full idol? Like they know everything that happened in terms of their idols, right? Like, why would Shaheen? But I mean, credit where credit is due. They got it. They made that plan work, and God or no God, they got Shaheen out of this game.
Be the God you wish to see in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think it is, I think we can't necessarily talk about this episode as well without talking about a topic that we broached a couple times, but really the emotionality of Joe's story. And this is something that has been crucial to not only him, running the game the way he has, but even being out there on the island in the first place. The fact that his sister was really the fan that got him into the Survivor, that she was pushing him and her to apply for years, and he kept saying no. And then, unfortunately, when he did apply, it was too late. The fact that he was playing there for her. I've said this a couple times, but I was out there for the day one Matt chat where he said the very first thing he basically told everybody in this game was that he was out there for his sister, and the fact that she died due to domestic violence, which I think also explains that there were some, some people out there that were like, why did Shaheen and Kyle not react in any way when Joe talks about his sister? Like, they knew. It's okay. They knew 3 weeks ago. But I am so happy for many reasons that the story gets represented. Unfortunately, domestic violence is a horror that affects so many people and continues to do so. And to experience it from Joe's perspective as well, and how heavy that carries in his heart, and in particular the sort of confession he makes about the guilt that he feels of not only the lack of closure, but this idea of like, I should have been the one to protect you. I mean, I don't know. I do not want to psychoanalyze someone that we've only been watching for 12 episodes of 90-minute television, but like, it's not your fault, man. Don't put all of that onto yourself. And Joe is someone that has worn his heart on his shirtless sleeves, and that goes to show here that it applies to his personal life as much as it does to his Survivor life as well.
Yeah, it's rough. And I'm glad too that he has been able to begin some semblance of healing with a situation like that, because as we all know, it can be very, very messy, very, very hard to deal with. And I can imagine that, like, yeah, of course you feel like you need to be the one that steps in and saves somebody from that situation, whether it be a sibling, another loved one, whoever it is in your family. Yeah, you want to be able to. But I think that this side of the story, I think, is very important in being told, in that, like, yeah, well, sometimes that person can't be saved because, reasons. Like, people get stuck in these vicious, toxic cycles, and the only person that can really save that person is themselves sometimes. I don't know Joe's specific story, but like, we've heard many, many times that it can, until that person wants to be out, they will not get out. And so but then, not only is that person then destroyed, but the people that are around them can also really, really be affected for many, many, many years to come. So yeah, it isn't necessarily a happy ending as far as his sister is concerned, but at the very least, he's able to get to a point where he's able to get the beginning of healing, because I don't think anyone ever fully heals from that. All you can
Right.
really do is continue to grow and continue to realize that, like, you know, you did what you could, she did what she could as well, and you just move on.
I cried so many times in this episode. Like,
Yeah.
it was absolutely heartbreaking. Both the family visits always get me, even as much as I try to say, like,
I know, I love them
family
so much.
visits. I'm just sobbing. Like, I
Even
can't
for the
not
players that
react
I'm like,
that
oh my
way.
God, go home. I'm like, oh, they have a family too.
I know. I love them all.
No, the thing that really got me was in his speech on the beach, his beach
Yeah.
speech, if you
Beach
will, when he
speech.
says,
Mhm.
I need you to know that I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you from that monster. Like,
Ugh.
God, that freaking walloped
It
me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I thought I was done crying, and then Joe does the moment on the beach. I'm so grateful that he let us into his life to experience that, because it was such an emotionally powerful moment. And I think knowing the fact that him and his sister fought like the night before, that also absolutely crushed me. Like, my
Ugh.
heart goes out to him, my heart goes
Yeah.
out to his family, my heart goes out to anyone else who's in a similar situation. Like, it is a situation I would never want to wish on any
Yeah.
single human being. And to be
Yeah.
able to see his perspective and to see him have that moment, I'm just very grateful and very appreciative that we got to see it, and for him sharing that story, because even now just talking about it and thinking about it, like, it's just hitting me so hard emotionally.
Well, and you
Yeah.
have to wonder as well that I would imagine to a certain extent he was able to compartmentalize and focus on the present. But like again,
Mhm.
he was out here because of her. He says before
Mhm.
he ends up getting up, I wanted to be Joanna's voice. And so
Yeah.
how long do you think he was waiting for this moment? If not days, years. To be
Yeah.
like, I am going to go onto this show that you always wanted to be on. I wanted to play on your behalf. And I wanted in this moment to feel cosmically, spiritually, what have you, connected to you in some way. So I could tell
Mhm.
you all the things that I wasn't able to. Like, it's an incredibly,
Yeah.
incredibly special moment that, to your point, I'm very happy that we were let in on, because I think it is also a really nice reminder that, as you mentioned before, Aman, there will be times, especially when a majority is steamrolling through a season, when you can get frustrated and outright angry at some of the things people are doing, including, as well as you mentioned before, a bit of the hypocrisy that sometimes comes from like the best way to play the game is with loyalty and integrity, and anything else is looked down upon. But like, these are living, breathing, sometimes flawed individuals at the end of the day. And I think
Mhm.
it did come at the right time, as much as we're going back and forth as to like, was this a good Joe episode? Was this not a good Joe episode? I do think that getting a firm reminder as to his big why, as to why he's just doing all of this in the first place, was really, really nice to, I think, at least remind us that this is somebody who feels like he's out there for a greater purpose than just $1 million and an excuse to walk around without a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because, like, like, reminds us all, and it's just like it humanizes them, and like, when something when you're riding on something as deep as that, you're going to care so much that
Mhm.
sometimes you make the best decisions and sometimes you make bad ones, and it's just all in the name of trying to win this for whatever cause that you have. And I just hope that he knows, and I think that he is, old enough and wise enough to know that, like, even if he doesn't win, like, he was there for a reason and he did his absolute
Yeah.
best. I think the only way to fail at this is to go out there and to give up, and clearly he hasn't been doing that. So I think, from my humble perspective, I think his sister's memory is honored strictly in that. Like, of course
Mhm.
it's lovely to win, and of course, you want that big epic finish, you want that poetic finish, but I think just being there, sharing that moment with us, like, that I think that's reaching a lot of people, and I'm sure he's going to
Yeah.
have a lot of people that tell him that, that if they haven't already. So, I'm just glad that we were able to see it, and it was done in a way
Mhm.
that didn't feel too gratuitous and too
Yeah.
um
Exploitative.
Yeah.
right, because sometimes the show can veer a little into that. Y'all producers, y'all be doing too much sometimes, but I think that this was very Joe driven. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. If only they sent Jeff Probst out there to give him a hug.
Oh my god! Like,
very
I'm your
well
mom now.
noted.
Like, get the hell out
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm your mommy
No,
now, exactly.
I think
I'm your
the other
sister
thing-
now. I'm your
here.
sister now.
No.
well, I think that's the other thing is like I had been one of the concerns that I had levied against this season was the fact that I didn't understand the motivations behind some of the decisions the players were making. And I do feel like this episode I got so much more clarity on why the players were making the decisions that they were making.
Yeah,
And also especially a good reminder of why Joe is playing in this way, why Joe is treating Eva this way, right? So that just makes the episodes I think so much better. I mean, on top of that, obviously we got an exciting ultimate outcome, but also we just got to see more of the thinking, the thought process, how these outside events in these players' lives dictate how they play the game, and that's so beneficial to see.
Well, let's pivot to start talking about our usual B&B fare, and we will go back to the boot of the episode. Shaheen, be he beard guy, SD, whatever you want to refer to him, Shaheen has finally left the game. Before we get into our predictions, Aman, I'd be remiss not to point out that Shaheen did refer to this reward as Survivor Euphoria.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, sure. You know,
What would you rather see? Would you rather see Survivor : Euphoria, where it is the cast of Euphoria playing Survivor? Or would you rather see like Survivor Euphoria, where it's a bunch of like moody, drug-addled teenagers playing Survivor?
oh, that's so hard. I think I would rather actual. I guess this is the exploitative producer in me. I'd rather see drug-addled, moody teenagers play Survivor. I think that would be just epic television.
What a season.
I think that would just be crazy.
Even if you just want to go from the youthful angle, listen, we've got a fair amount of Survivor babies within the community, considering that our contestants are naturally getting older. Yeah, so just throw them all in a season together. Make that Survivor Euphoria, just without any of the HBO-esque elements. Just be like, it's Euphoria because they're young, and let's see what happens.
I'm here for that. I'm totally here for that for the legacy of it all, because I think that's like the ultimate bragging rights. If you have birthed a child that also wins a Survivor, like can't nobody tell me nothing. Okay.
Well, let's talk about Mr. Legacy himself in the form of Shaheen.
Yes.
Liana, let's start with you. Now, you have name dropped a number of alliances in the endgame, and Shaheen, I believe, was a part of the Storm Chasers. Correct me if I'm wrong here. So what did you forecast for him?
Okay, so I appreciate the pun, first of all. I had Shaheen making the finale. It was so close. Shaheen, our Persian king. He may have wanted more fire making, but he personally missed out by getting voted out at Final 5. Shaheen created a super tight alliance called the Storm Chasers with Joe and Eva. They run the game both in pre-jury and post-jury until Camilla convinces Joe that Shaheen will beat him in a jury vote. The Storm Chasers hunt their own as both Joe and Eva, alongside David and Camilla, vote out Shaheen in a 4-1 vote.
Oh, 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Shaheen gets a hero send-off from the editing team for his strategic gameplay all season, and I am personally amused by the irony of Shaheen saying he would never cut his number one ally in the preseason, only to be cut by his number one ally, Joe.
Damn.
His allies were the Storm Chasers, Joe and Eva, and his enemy was Camilla.
Liana, every syllable that came out of your mouth just buried my case further and further. And I will say that case was already 6 feet in the ground because, folks, Shaheen Davari was my winner pick for Survivor 48. Listen. There were many reasons behind it. I love the chance. I felt like he had a lot of good stuff working for him. That he was able to talk through a lot of the interpersonal elements. That he was put on the right tribe, as I'll get into. That I think would allow him to not necessarily need to vote the first half of the game. And I'll also admit, at least part of me was like, I got to keep this string of 46 affiliated people going.
Mhm.
Like, I owe it to this guy after I made him this odd sort of like C-tier legend of the preseason last time in 46. Like, the least I could do for this poor man was make him my winner pick, to make him feel like it was all worth the mythos that surrounded him up to this point. But all that being said, here's the yarn I spun for Shaheen and how, in my mind, in my universe, in my French vanilla fantasy, he won Survivor 48. Despite his Icarus-like tendencies to fly close to the sun, Shaheen plays it cool in the first phase of the game. Logi's winning streak prevents the teacher from having to vote the first half of his tenure, and that allows him to effectively play the middle of his tribe with nobody getting to cash his bounced checks. While Shaheen does his best to sit on his logic bully tendencies, we'll get many Jeremy Collins-esque "these guys are so dumb" confessionals as he attempts to figure out the brains behind this brawn-forward cast. When the individual game hits, Shaheen prides himself on becoming the rebound girl of the season. In a game that's all about duos, as people get picked off, they'll slide into their island DMs to lock in as their new number one. We see this happen with both Thomas and Eva, making Shaheen the most well-connected person in the 48 endgame. Shaheen will win an individual challenge, saying he's doing it for his mom, and shouting out how he hopes this win will get extra fantasy points in his Propsty Fantasy League at home. Despite Shaheen's people skills making him the most social player of the season, he finds himself on the outside looking in at the final four, a purple dot in a sea of orange. It's then that he truly turns his speech and debate Riz on. And I don't know if that's like the Human Torch Riz on.
I was like, that was giving me very Johnny Storm. I love that.
Rather than practicing fire, ironically speaking, Shaheen spends the afternoon talking to Chrissy, saying she would finish a distant third in an all-Siva final three. And to the shock of many, including partially Shaheen himself, he wins the argument as she chooses to take him to day 26. Shaheen touted to me in the preseason that he can make an argument for anyone, but he gets his money's worth in an opponent when he goes up against Kyle in the final tribal council. It's the age-old battle of the secret lawyer versus the public speech and debate coach. The guy who banked on relationships versus the one who made use of gambits and advantages. And as Mother Nature intended, the social eats the strategic, as Shaheen gets crowned the winner 5-2. Shaheen's win marks the third season in a row where someone involved in Survivor 46 has won. As a result, the majority of the fans put their chips behind whoever from 46 is coming back for 50, considering its 100% success rate. His closest ally was Joe, Thomas, and Eva. His enemy was Camilla because she targets him because of everything from the Survivor 46 preseason.
Okay.
So listen, it's ultimately a losing story, but it is a story at that. I will be publishing this on AO3 at the conclusion of this podcast.
I was here to say, ho, do you be writing? Is you an author? Is you a journalist? Because that was good.
Oh, man.
I live.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
well, I'll take that point. Thank you very much.
It's pretty wild, though, to just like look at this man's 2-year journey from, again, doing way too much in the Survivor 46 preseason where everyone was talking about him to now like getting his chance to play, but then, you know, very much having to change his game based on the people that he was playing with, supposedly going out as like the number one threat to win the game and being so freaking happy at the experience he had. Like, what an up and down journey for this man. And I am so enthused and flattered that I got to experience even just a smidge of it, getting to talk with Shaheen all the times that I got to.
I mean, he also made waves in the preseason of this season too. Like we still started getting him mentioned. You know what I mean? Like truly an iconic player, both in the preseason and like on the season itself. Like you can't take away what he brought to the show.
Let that be known, future Survivor players. Like this is the bar now. You want to be talked about to the level that Shaheen is. Now, maybe that means that you need to peacock a bit like Shaheen did with the beard. Like having a noticeable facet that is distinct from any other facet. I mean, if there was another beard outside with Shaheen for Survivor 48, for many reasons, he'd be able to hide a bit more. But if you have something that you want to tout, just know that that's something that you could be easily identified with. And so steer into the curve a little bit. You know you got eyes on you. Make it a show, baby.
I know, right?
Don't forget his legs too.
Oh, those
Need to
legs.
need to be in the
Those damn
museum.
legs.
Yeah, Aman, is Shaheen the Naomi Smalls of Survivor, considering how much he talks about those legs?
I mean, I typically have one crush, whether it be a Survivor or Big Brother season, and Shaheen was mine. So, I
Oh,
guess I
Mhm.
guess I definitely will I will co-sign the legendary status for Shaheen. Although I will say that I wasn't really noticing them much until he put them up.
it's
Yeah, I
really
know, right?
it's really the she's all that of legs. I'm like, what? Those legs? Oh, but the more I look at them,
Yeah, I'm like,
oh.
okay, well,
I
okay.
know. They took the glasses off and put their hair down, and all of a sudden, wow, look at those little legs.
Well, listen, while all eyes are on these players, I think it's time we fixate upon a part of them that we usually do, but have not this season so far. But let us finally cross over that threshold as we engage in a B&B tradition. And it only makes sense, Amon, that of course you are talking about Drag Race, in which a pivotal component are the looks that get brought to the runway each and every week. Sometimes that is outright a challenge from the show proper. And so it's only fitting that we open up our own lookbook here and we play Buff or Snuff Survivor 48 version.
Okay.
How this is going to work is I am going to present an outfit or a clothing item that someone from this season has worn. We will talk through respectively whether we buff it, we like it, whether we snuff it, we do not like it, and why. This is an incredibly visual component. So for those of you that are listening along, go to bit.ly/buffersnuff48 to follow along because this time around, now look, maybe as a reflection of the cast proper, there's not a lot of like unique kooky outfits popping out across everybody. So I will say, much like any good ball challenge, we're going to be focusing on, especially in this first half, a lot of multiple looks from the same players. They got options going on in the new era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am down for the tooting and the booting and the stuffing and the buffing and it all.
All right. Well, let us start with the man of the hour and a half. Let's start with Shaheen here because Shaheen has had a fair use of tops over the course of this season that are of note. I want to start with this one. So this is a shirt that Shaheen wore in the pouring rain during the one individual challenge that he won in this most recent episode. It's a little tough to tell from this picture, but it seems to be crocheted in some way. I know,
Yeah.
T-Core did not necessarily exist as a CBS personality prior to Shaheen going out, but maybe he slid into her DMs, knew what was happening, and got her to make him something special. He also wore like a pretty knit thing for his cast photo as well. So clearly this is a type of fabric that is something that's very much in his wheelhouse. But Liana, when it comes to this top in particular, Buffer Snuff.
I'm just imagining it getting wet. I feel like it's going to be so heavy once it's wet. Like, I like the way it looks. Also, he looks incredibly broad chest. Was he always like he looks like
He's part of the Strong Alliance for a reason, Liana.
Apparently, yeah. Aman was onto this all season. I had no idea how broad chested he was. But I'm just imagining it being wet and like soggy, like the crocheted material. I might have to snuff this one.
Well, I do love a little sweater. I do love one of those. But I didn't even think about it getting heavy. That's a really good point. It's got to be functional, But the color is what really does it for me. I think it pairs well with his skin. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with a buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna buff it as well because listen, I usually chastise people who wear sponges out there, essentially incredibly absorbent material, and this is another case where due to the knit, due to the fabric, yeah, this seemed like, especially in this challenge where it was just an absolute monsoon, though according to Jeff, that is something that every Survivor player waits to happen to them. Shaheen faced it, eternally so, considering that I'm not sure even to this day if this top is still dry. But I kind of acknowledge like the meta narrative behind it, which is like, I am soaking up this experience right now. This is finally my chance. Let me take in as much stimuli, as much of the natural environment as I can and carry this with me yes, I might get double pneumonia from it, but when I'm hacking up a lung, my mind will just be in pure paradise, dreaming about the fact that this top is going to contain so many memories of the 20-something days I played.
I mean, also, like, he chose to wear that out there, so maybe it's not so bad. I mean, when I mean wear it out there, I mean he wore it to this challenge. He knew
Yeah.
it was raining, right? And he chose still to wear this, so maybe it's not as bad. 'Cause I
Yeah, this
think
is not one
on
of those
looks,
things
I
where
would
he's like,
definitely buff
is
it.
it rain? Oh God, is it raining outside
Is it raining
today?
yet? Let me check the weather.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, let's go to another Shaheen top here, because again, he's a man of many different shirts. This is a fun little number. So this is from a rather memorable conversation with Kyle. Aman, do you want to describe like the pattern on this shirt, the variety of them for those that are listening?
It's sort of like giving a grayscale version of like some of those 90s like
Yes.
patterns that you would see at maybe like a roller rink or like a Chuck E. Cheese carpet.
Yes, I think I went on a Carnival cruise that had the carpet that was
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like the
And they
sepia
walked all over
version.
him in this episode, so it's
Oh,
fitting.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it's obviously, it looks like it breathes. Maybe it's some type of like Egyptian cotton type deal going on. But nothing to write home to mama about, I don't think.
Yeah, for me, as much as I talked up wearing absorbent material, I don't want you to dress like your grandmother's throw over the couch with plastic on it. So this gets a snuff from me.
It's too busy. It's too busy. And for him, like, I think his Kibby essence is something a lot more simplistic. So I would have to go with the first shirt over this one. So if I snuff that one, I'm definitely snuffing this one.
Yeah. But
All right.
I do like what's under it.
There we go.
Yes.
And maybe that's again a representation of what brought Shaheen down. Was like much like the Dan Flashes-esque patterns on his shirt. His brain was too busy. He was thinking through too many options all at once, and got his foot in his mouth. All right, I've got one more top from Shaheen here. They really give people a lot of options here in the new era, and here is another one. This is a party animal shirt if I've ever seen one. I don't believe there's an animal on there, but it is this like vibrant, bright purple with like maybe it's leopard spots, maybe it's just this sort of almost camouflage sequence of spots around it. But Shaheen is someone who really opened the Pandora's box of Club Condo mythos this season by talking about like, yeah, it's like when you go to this party and then all of a sudden you get brought to this other party, it's a lot larger. This seems to be a shirt that he would typically wear on like a Saturday night when he is gallivanting around the town.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I don't even know what is that pattern. It feels like there's like a little bit of cheetah going on in there, a leopard. Looks like some clouds in there. It's kind of giving a little bit of like a 70s new age / like Gen Z type deal going on. Like, I like it. I think it looks cute. It's cute.
This color looks so good on him. This color purple and also the pink, I think, look really good on him. I'm not like super crazy about the pattern, but I could see him wearing this for like a club condo party. So
yeah,
I take back what I said about the patterns. I will buff this one for him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me incredibly excited for what he's going to wear as a juror, though.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Could he have already expended like his wardrobe? He's like, oh shit, I actually packed this for Ponderosa. I didn't mean to wear this out on the island.
Yeah, whoops. I was waiting for the after party.
Yeah,
all right.
I am excited to see what he struts out with in the next jury.
Well, if there's one castaway that might be more fashion forward on Survivor 48 than Shaheen, it is Mary. Mary touts a number of outfits over the course of this season. And so let's get into it, shall we? This is the first one. And Liana, I want to bring this to you because this is actually an outfit that you brought to my attention from last week's episode. Talk to me about this ensemble going on from Mary.
Well, this is, I think, from like 5 or 6 weeks ago, actually. So some of these looks I had grabbed with the thought, like, well, we'll probably do buffer stuff eventually. I was rewatching an episode for like Cedric Pictures or something. I don't know. I don't remember. And I ended up saving this one. And I don't know why, but for me, it's the combination of the hoops and the shirt that like are giving classic like 90s vibes. And I just am absolutely obsessed with this. Plus her little shorts. She looks so cute. And she doesn't even look like she's out on Survivor. She just looks like she's on like beach holiday and is just on vacation. So for me, I just think that this is such a cute fit. Mary is my crush of the season. So I'm definitely buffing this. I think she looks adorable.
Marry me.
Yeah. Maybe.
This looks like the outfit that you wear on your on your travel day to the White Lotus before shit hits the fan.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like your last little bit of normalcy, and then that button's going to get popped off. Them jean shorts are going to get ripped. Your hair is not going to be looking the same ever again. Yeah, this is the quiet before the storm for sure.
That's the thing. This reminds me of almost like you speak about maybe Liana, this being immersed in like a 90s pastiche of like teen show works a summer job at the country club, and it's like, well, Mary, the shirt is part of the uniform, but you could add some embellishes if you want to. She's like, great, I'll wear my hoop earrings and I'll wear my shorts to prove that I'm just a little rebellious.
Yes, I love it. It's so
cute. Three buffs all around, suffice it to say. Well, let's get into more tops here than the entire outfit. I want to go from, again, a rather tight-fitting top to just a big old baggy hoodie. So this was one of Mary's many tribal council looks. I think it's the good thing about going to tribal council a lot is that you get to show off all the looks that you have prepared. In fact, I believe this is what she was wearing at the tribal council where her shot in the dark hit, and she was spared from being the third person voted out. And so due to it being purely lucky, and maybe it's the fact that it is sort of this like sickly Irish green to it, Aman, I have to buff it.
It looks like green might be her color. Purple is Shaheen's, green is hers.
Which is fun because she literally had a confessional where she's like, if I could burn my green buff, I would have.
I think it looks good on you. This is giving gamer core. This is giving Twitch streamer in your hoodie type deal, just big comfy old hoodie. I'm here for it. I think that she looks very just like modern and new age, and just like she just looks like she's just too cool for you. And I'm here for it.
I know, right? Again, with the hoops, accessorize with the hoops is so cute. And I love the fact that her little beret matches the hoodie color, which is just such a nice touch to have that green on green. The buff looks really great with it, but it's like a slightly different shade of green with accents that match the hoodie. I'm just really obsessed with this look. I would absolutely wear it. So I'm buffing this as well. It's so cute.
It does make me wonder when it comes to the idea of accessories. Like clearly Mary had this around, that she brought it into the game with her. But we've seen like people's socks get burned before. If you feel vindictive enough, could someone have like buried Mary's earrings if they had the initiative to do so?
Maybe if they were lucky, but I don't think the earrings really were the lucky bit.
I mean, I would have stolen her earrings if I thought that was going to send her over the edge. You know, you got to play these psychological warfare games against people. You got to.
Well, no, actually, the ultimate mind game: hide one earring.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
give her the false hope that they're there, that they're both there, and you just haven't found the other one.
Don't even spit that into the universe right now. I'm unpacking and I'm like, please let me have all my pairs of earrings. Please let all of them have made it, because one is the absolute worst. If you lose a full pair, it's like, okay, fine.
It's like it's gone. Yeah,
he's like, whatever, it's gone. I don't know where it went. If you lose one, you like hold on to that one with the hope that eventually the other one will show back up, and it just never does. And
then you just have a pile of earrings with one pair.
Yep.
I finally had to get rid of my pile before I moved. I had like 5 or 6 just single earrings. It's like, okay, that's
would you ever pull off wearing 2 separate earrings?
Maybe I could try, or maybe if I got like just a one piercing on one side, like an extra piercing, I could use for all my single earrings.
Just your ears just filled with all of these loose,
just all the single ones,
independent earrings.
Yeah,
the free agent earrings.
But no, so cute.
Yeah, if you realize, actually, this season is a lot like earrings. Like everyone's been in pairs. No one's really been
True.
broken up that much.
Okay, yeah. Shaheen's the Vincent Van Gogh all by himself.
Yeah.
He has the beard to match. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Believe it or not, more Mary content here. This is, I believe, what she might have worn to the first tribal council, ergo the first time she
Oh.
was blindsided this season. I think she wore it to the second one, maybe, too. This is a cute little, like, checkerboard,
Oh.
chessboard number. I guess the question, Aman, is that are you implying too much if you're wearing this type of pattern on a mental chess game like Survivor?
She's giving like this is like your middle school production of Alice in Wonderland, and she is maybe either Tweedledee or Tweedledum because they've done like a little bit of blind casting and they don't necessarily have to be men in this one. Just all she needs like the little pinwheel hat, and that'll really just set it all off. That's what I'm seeing right now.
I'm not gonna lie, I also did forget about her bangs. How bad her bangs were coming into this. I like Tweedledee Tweedledum aside, I still think that this is really cute. I think I'm just biased. I'm a Mary fan. I'm gonna buff this also.
I don't know. Maybe I've sort of set it up before, but like I don't want to create the image of like this is a complicated game, you know? But on the plus side, if I was like, listen, let me liven the camp up. You grab some stones, play on me, baby. I'm your board.
Exactly. Keep me around. You can play checkers on me.
And yeah, and I'm soldering this thing to my body. You cannot wear it.
Yeah.
I come with the sweater.
Exactly. You can't put out the universe of the, Natalie, can I have your jacket situation where you vote out Mary and then you ask to have her checkerboard so you can continue to play checkers. Like it comes on Mary. You play on Mary, okay?
Yeah, other than that, or like they're just gonna take it, they're just gonna like cut the shit out of it to be like, all right, let's just lay out this solitary piece of fabric as the checkerboard. We don't need to play on top of a person.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more for you here from Mary. And this was maybe my favorite of them. We've done a lot of long sleeve looks, but look, it's heating up over here. Summer is encroaching at the moment, and this is a look that I've seen Mary wear a good number of times. It's this short sleeve tank top look with like a bunch of random numbers on it. There's an upside down 4 at the top. There's an 8 over her arm. There's another 8. And what's very interesting is that I am watching screeners for a certain show for an upcoming interview for Parade. And one of the lead characters, I kid you not, I was just watching a scene where they were wearing this exact top in it. So it just feels like too much of a confluence of different factors to have Mary's top show up for me here as well.
I don't know about this one. It being dirty aside, because they're all dirty out there, I just feel like it sort of reminds me of a random NPC stock character that you see in the middle of a video game.
Yeah.
With the game developers were just throw whatever on them, it doesn't matter, and they'll be good. And that's what I'm getting. This is, walking around the house, not going anywhere for days. Just don't really give a damn.
Yeah,
it's fine.
What it reminds me a lot of is like in the cartoons when it's like, well, we got to give this one kid an outfit that they're going to wear the entirety of the show. And like, It's not a jersey. What it reminds me a lot of is Gerald from Hey Arnold, where he just wore this sweater that had 33 on it. It wasn't a jersey. It was just a long sleeve shirt that had 33 on it. That's what Mary's outfit reminds me of. It's like, kids like numbers, right? So 4, 8, throw them all on there.
Yeah, the pattern is not it. The cut and the fit are stellar, 10 out of 10, spectacular. It's the pattern on the shirt is terrible. If it was a solid print, I would love it so much better. And I'm not really a crazy fan of the color of the skirt, but fine, it can stay. But I am gonna unfortunately have to snuff this one. But the fit, it looks so good on her.
Yeah, the skirt looks like a pillowcase.
Do you think Mary was like, no, I made it past 8. I have to make it to 4 now. It's been faded. This is my, speaking of 4 and 8, this is my number. I have to stick with it. The numbers are good.
I can't tell that the lime green, is that a number or is that just blocky?
I think it's a 45.
I was trying to see if it was a 48.
Or maybe
that
it is a
been,
48.
and then it's 4 and 8 are the colors.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives it a little more.
Okay,
more
she
points.
keeps it.
You know what? No, she's on brand. It's a buff. She's the only one who showed up and knew the assignment of dress with your season
were talking
number.
that shit, and we had no idea.
Be your own buff.
Season number.
It's one giant buff as a top. Everyone else has Survivor 48 printed across these little pieces of fabric they get to wear around their forehead. Mary's wearing it across her entire ass chest.
Yeah, the expression on her face while I was really giving, y'all get it now.
Yeah, y'all get it. Took a second, but yeah, you got it.
All right, well now we are veering away to more singular content here. I want to talk about an outfit that I see from time to time. I haven't gotten like a good picture of, so this might be a little bit small, but Eva has, okay, maybe you two are more fashion forward. You can tell me about this. Is this a vest or is this like a sleeveless top that Eva has been rocking over the course of the season, Liana?
What's the difference? No, it's a vest. It's definitely a vest, I think, right? Because it's a little bit oversized and you can see it's kind of got a pocket on one side. So I'm going to say that this is definitely just a vest, like more of an over shirt kind of thing.
So then what do you think about that? I mean, I guess besides Ben from Survivor 46, I can't think of many people who rocked the vest only look on the island.
I'm not really a vest girly. So I might have, it's also, I think it's like, it just doesn't fit her super well. Because I think that she could rock an oversized look, and I think an oversized vest isn't like inherently bad for her. But I think also with her like body type, I'm not crazy about this for her. She has an absolutely amazing body, and I just feel like this is doing her no favors. So I'm gonna snuff this one.
What do you think, Aman?
Does look a little oversized. I love a good vest, though. I am very partial to a vest. But it does seem to swallow her up a little bit. So I'm going to have to give it a snuff.
I'm going to buff it here because what it is giving me is drummer in a middle school all-girl band. Like, it is, like, this is the punk rock look that I'm supposed to wear, right? So I'm just going to wear, I don't know, an open vest, I suppose. That's what all the coolest artists do. I absolutely love it. I love the nonsensical perspective, from my opinion, of wearing a vest on Survivor, where, yes, your chest is kept warm, but there's also your extremities that are left just completely bare. And from what it seems like, Eva does have a sweater that I didn't, showcase here. But, like, by and large, this is the other major top that she has, and it basically, exposes both of the arms to just any of the wilderness that might be around her. So there's a lot of pure irony in me buffing this, but it is such a bold choice. And now we have to see, like, 46, we had a vest. 48, we had a vest. 50, these returnees know how to dress for the island. We shall see if they will invest in a vest.
Yeah. Invest in the vest.
Yeah.
All right. Next up here, we have one of our recent standouts from the past few episodes. This is Star. Liana, this is another not-so-blind item you submitted to me. Can you describe what we're looking at right now and why you wanted to draw some attention to it?
Okay, it's probably the combination of the buff, the shirt, the socks, and the shoes. I think that's why I was drawn to this outfit. So to describe it, she's wearing these like yellow New Balance sneakers with geometric rectangular block socks that are in pink, purple, and turquoise. Then she's wearing a purple sort of leopard print, maybe just random spots, but in sort of a stochastic pattern button up top, and then of course the Survivor buff for the season. So I think I was just overwhelmed with all the patterns and the colors. Like a small child, just couldn't stop staring at it.
I mean, the socks are, for my opinion, the best socks of the season. It looks like I'm on a discotheque floor, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I kind of hate the juxtaposition with those horrific yellow New Balances. But yes, the socks are definitely top notch. I appreciate it.
Colorful.
Very colorful.
Yeah, much like Star's personality. Like, I honestly, I don't know. Could socks be a larger representation of your personality more than the actual other pieces of your wardrobe that you choose?
My mom would say so, as she is a sock connoisseur, and more specifically, a finger sock connoisseur. She just loves to have little, well, I guess toe socks, rather, not finger socks.
Oh, I was like, were finger socks just gloves? But yeah, toe socks. That makes sense.
Gosh.
All right, I've got a couple more here for you. Let's get into a very fun one that has not been addressed whatsoever on screen, but the person in question has gone to social media to basically say, why did no one tell me I looked like a literal conehead out on the island? This is Camilla's like early morning look. It feels like every time we have some of these scenes out by the boat or like tree mail, this is actually from that aforementioned secret scene I mentioned before where Eva's opening up about a lot of her struggles with associating her physicality with her mental well-being. And so imagine you're pouring your heart out to this, which is Camilla has a hoodie / jacket that she has pulled over her head, pulled in tight, and then tied with a bow, Aman, to make sure that that thing ain't coming off anytime soon.
She looks like a little scoop of ice cream, a little scoop of raspberry sorbet, just a little frozen treat on a hot summer day. Love that for you, sis. I'm here for it. She looks like she was born and raised in like a I don't know.
A bowling alley?
Like
in a colder region of
a prairie girl.
the Fire Nation or something. I don't know.
It's so funny, but like this is the kind of thing that would happen to me. So I'm going to share something extremely embarrassing. So one time I did this, but I had my headphones underneath my like big blocky headphones. So Puya took a picture of me, and this is what I look like.
You're twinning.
Yeah. So like I completely empathize with Camilla in this moment because you're doing it because it's like comfortable and it's gonna keep you warm. And then you look at yourself afterwards, you're just like, what the hell, guys? Like, why did no one say anything?
Yeah, see, the one thing is that I like this sort of like my wife does it as well. She calls it like a moon grubble look, which is almost like an alien creature when you pull in the hood taut around your face. I think what's really doing it for me is the length of string underneath the chin. The fact that she did it up with a bow, like she's the present to give to this season, as she has been in her confessionals. Like, and it's dangling underneath. It is just, I don't know. I keep giving the ironic buffs and stuffs in this particular podcast. I got to give it a buff due to the fact that nobody has pointed it out to her whatsoever. And here's the thing. Maybe Boston Rob infamously said that there are small social gestures that can indicate where you stand in the tribe, largely who sleeps next to whom in the shelter. Maybe there's a social experiment in the fact that Camilla is looking as ridiculous as this, and nobody is telling her this. If I were her and I got to look at myself in the mirror, I'd be like, oh my God, nobody's checking in with me to let me know that I look absolutely asinine.
Mental.
Am I on the bottom? Like, do I not have somebody right now? Why did Kyle not check in with me about this?
Not even Kyle. Not even Kyle. Tell her how
look, sis. It's a look. She looks like a dessert, and everyone is just fantasizing about it as they look at her in this hoodie. Okay, she's refreshing.
I mean, it is, to your point about the raspberry, like I'm looking further, it looks like a corduroy jacket with multiple colors and a hood. On top of that, like, did you have someone crafty stitch those two things together? This is a interesting garb to begin with.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a preschooler who dressed themselves kind of energy to a certain extent, but like in a cute way.
Now, wait a minute. I just had a thought. If one were to ever ratatouille themselves on Survivor, if one were to ever say, now I'm no smart individual that can win a complicated game of social strategy and nutritional deprivation, but this mouse can, in theory, is this not the perfect thing to wear on Survivor? If I took an x-ray right now, there's a non-zero chance that there is some sort of rodentia hidden at the top of her scalp saying, yeah, say that Shaheen showed you the idol. Joe will be totally fooled by that.
I mean, that's the only reason that I refuse to get rid of this little tuft that I have on top of my head, because it can hide so many things. Like, and like, what you gonna do? Try to dig in my hair and search for it? Like, get off me, okay? Like,
This is my storage spot. Leave me alone.
no, I'm here for
Yeah.
Ratatouille all the way.
Some have pockets, some have purses. Aman has the space above his head.
Mhm.
All right, well, we're finishing off with the boys here with a couple of memorable outfits. This one is an oldie, but a goodie. Never forget one of the most instantly iconic t-shirts in Survivor history. I'm going to Justin, Mr.
Yep.
Luigi's himself, with just the simplistic yet complex pizza t-shirt. Liana, it's been 9 weeks since we've seen Justin on our screens. Are we hungry for another slice of discussion about this shirt?
I'm not gonna lie, I am hungry, and pizza sounds really good right now. So I'm like
Pizza
all
does sound
in.
really good. I might
Right?
order
This is a
some now.
conversation we had, though, right? About like, would you want to wear on a show like Survivor a shirt that maybe reminds people that they cannot have pizza anytime soon?
I know, because you look at Justin, you're just like, go away, Justin. I don't want to look at you right now. You're making me think of pizza. I mean, but look, he's got merch out of it. I think that that's a great move as well. So from a financial perspective, I'm definitely going to buff this. From a visual perspective, I hate this. So I will snuff it, but it is iconic.
What do you think, Aman?
I just love how utilitarian it is. It's just what you see is what you get. Like, if you are looking for pizza, look no further. It is right there. Okay. So you know what? I'll buff it. I'll buff it.
I think he just needs to add, like, paint a question mark on it if he made the merch that just says, like, pizza?
Pizza?
Feels very inviting. Like, hey, you want pizza? You want to get pizza?
Pizza? Should we have pizza?
Want some za?
Pizza?
Pizza?
But yeah, this continues to be an absolutely incredible shirt. I really hope people follow in his sauce-laden footsteps and just type in simple font food or, I don't know, people's names on there. It's almost like the equivalent of, remember that trend of t-shirts when it was like, I guess if we're doing like new era winners, Erica and Marianne and Gabler and Jam Jam, where it just had a very ornate list of things at the front of it and nothing else. Maybe this is a new trend of just take the "it is your birthday" of typography and apply it to any t-shirt.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Just wear a black shirt with the color with white font, just says milk without the question mark.
Yes,
David had enough time. He might have actually painted that on one of his tank tops.
If he knew, yeah.
All right. Well, last but certainly not least. Now, this was, again, almost felt like a reading exercise. Not only this entire game, but the word being printed on Justin's shirt. So let's talk about somebody dressing up like somebody that might teach you how to read. And this is something that, look, David standing up was a whack thing in and of itself, that it really took the lion's share of the attention away from the fact that at the same time, Cedric dressed like Steve from Blue's Clues.
Yeah, this is so good.
Totally saw it. Black Steve right there in the flesh. Just in the flesh. Okay. I'm here for it. Blue, where you at? Where's the little notepad? I just wanted notes to be taken. Salt and pepper, where you at? I'm here for it.
See, I would be obsessed if Cedric was Steve from Blue's Clues for many reasons. One, because I don't know why the idea of a butt doctor being like, all right, I'm going to ask you these questions. Here's the clue to the polyps that you have in your anal cavity. But also, like, if he was, in fact, just Steve, it was like, hey, how many oranges do you see in front of you? And he'll take that information and be like, all right, now you're gone. I'm weaponizing this against you right now. Whether you answer my question or you don't, it's the same outcome, baby. You're out of this house.
I can't wait.
You know how many votes it takes for you to go home?
1, 2. Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously you got to buff this. Also, I believe this is when he was laughing at David standing. So extra buff for me for that.
I also believe someone pointed this out, that now with Shaheen going, every single person who voted for Cedric in this season has now been voted out.
Yes. Cedric's revenge.
I'm here for it. I wanted Mary to stand up so bad during just to keep the train going.
I wish that would have been amazing.
All right, well, that will do it for this edition of Buff or Stuff, and this will do it for this edition of the B&B as well. But before we close out, we always give the time to our guests at the end to highlight a charity or cause that is important to them. So, Aman, the floor is yours, a la Stars Disco Floor Socks. What would you like to highlight for the listeners out there?
So I guess it's not necessarily a specific charity, but I do a lot of work with people that are in the middle of relocating themselves. And so I would urge everyone, um, your local furniture bank. If you have furniture that you know that eventually when you move, or furniture that you have in your home that you're like, someone else could really use this, donate to your local furniture bank. Because a lot of people, they move and they're like, oh my God, I don't have this, I don't have that. Like sometimes you just forget the everyday random items of furniture that you might need for your home. So I would say, please donate to your local furniture bank if you can.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, Liana, was that something you were able to take advantage of during your big move?
Oh my gosh. No, but now I think I should. We both have something. We have something I think we can donate, and then some stuff I think we need to get. So that actually totally works out.
No, that's a great call. And I will also step in a bit here to highlight something else. As we discussed earlier, this episode took a very hard yet important look at the issue of domestic violence and how much it can permanently change the lives of so many people due to the monstrous actions of certain individuals out there. So if you or someone you know is involved in a situation with domestic violence, just know, as alone as you might feel in that moment, help is always available. I wanted to give special attention to thehotline.org, which provides multiple resources that you can utilize to talk with a licensed professional about your situation. You can call them, you can text them, you can chat with them on the website as well. There's a directory of local providers that if you want to see somebody in person, you can do that too. Make sure that people find the help that they need when they are at their most vulnerable. So again, go to thehotline.org. Aman, this has been 6 years in the making, and apologies that we keep bringing you back for what seems to be less regarded seasons by the Survivor fan base. But maybe it just speaks to the fact that you were always a rising tide to lift all boats when it comes to talking about Survivor in general. So thank you so much for making a grand return to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I have a great time as always.
Well, you are spreading that great time over to the Drag Race recap. Do you want to plug that as well as anything else you've got going on?
Yes, check out me and Beth as we are covering this season of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars. This is season 10. I'm sure Liana, when she has some time, will hop in at some point throughout the season. That's been a lot of fun. And check out the Diary Room with me and Matt Lagori, where we have been dwindling down all of these North American Big Brother players to find out who is the best. 1 bracket style, 6 players enter, 3 will leave. Both Mike and Liana have already made an appearance. I'm sure we'll not be the last, as we are going to be on this journey for a long time. So
I don't know. We made some controversial decisions last time I was on that. I don't know if I got shadow banned from the podcast.
Yeah, some of our patrons are still reeling from But make sure that you check that out. If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, check those episodes out.
Yeah, I'm curious with the winnowing down. Do you have a number as of yet as to like what you've gotten down to in your rankings?
We are halfway through round 1. So I think it's around 250 people that we have done thus far. So we've got about what, like a little bit less than a year, or I guess a little over a year at this point left to go. No, a little less than a year. I can't do math right now. A little less than a year until we are done with round 1. There we go.
Oh my god.
Round 1. My gosh.
Yeah. Well, Liana, I know you turned some heads, much like the Met Gala, with this week's pal. What would you like to plug for people out there?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Definitely check out the Puya and Liana Lounge. So we're releasing both on YouTube and then as well as our audio podcast. It's in the old Masked Singer feed. So, but you can just look up Puya and Liana Lounge. We also recorded an episode, like a very brief audio only episode on the Eurovision Song Contest 2025, which happened yesterday is the time we're recording this. So that should be out soon, if not already. So if you are any interested in Eurovision, you can hear Puya and I talk all about that in the audio only feed.
We'll have to do a buffer snuff one day on Eurovision outfits because I'm sure they would put these people to shame.
Oh yeah, 100%. Come on.
Well, as I mentioned before, I got the chance to talk with Shaheen, which was awesome. I think, obviously, a lot of our eyebrows were raised when he made the claim last week that he felt he could beat Joe in the end. I think in true fashion, given his occupation, I think he did a really interesting job of explaining to me and the audience by proxy why he felt he could make the argument that he did, the relationships that he was making with the jurors that we were not privy to seeing. And so why he was totally fine going to the end with Joe and Eva, even if Survivor fans were screaming at him across the board not to. So be sure to check that out. Again, a fun little point of culmination from a long 2-year process that he has spent out there talking with this weirdo. And also, this week marked the finale of The Amazing Race 37. Such a fun season and such a fun set of interviews. Got to talk with all Final Four teams. If you've been watching this season, there's one team in particular that has some explaining to do. And I felt they did a good job, I think, of explaining at least their headspace in the moment, in the past, and especially in the present and future, as well as talking with the other lovely teams that got to show up and make this season of The Amazing Race as entertaining as it was. Also sat down with Jess as well to recap it all and the season at large. And then the reality flash, butt ton of reality TV news coming out this week. It was the 2025 upfronts this past week, so I gave you everything you need to know. But really the big ticket item in the world of CBS reality that we finally got our first taste of news of Big Brother 27. I will briefly derail this podcast for a second because, Aman, I would be remiss if I had you on the air not to ask you about your thoughts on the news announced for Big Brother 27, which, for those of you that are not aware, were that we have a premiere date, July 10th, that we are going to have one episode a week. Some even heard this before. A Wednesday episode of CBS reality TV is going to be 90 minutes long. In this case, Big Brother's finally hopping on board. And that there's going to be a new bi-weekly alumni panel show, basically. US trying a bit on the side with a group of 3 Big Brother former players breaking down what happened, as well as maybe doing behind-the-scenes stuff as well. What are your initial takes on this vague amount of information?
I'm interested. I mean, we all know that Big Brother is sort of easy to produce, so it's not like it's very taxing on them to have to come up with another episode that takes more time. I'm wondering, is 90 minutes? Because they're going to be 2 separate shows, right? Like the alumni show is not going to be part of the 90-minute package, correct?
Yeah, it's just a completely separate 4th episode that happens every other week.
Right. So I'm wondering why they just didn't make the live show 90 minutes, because that would give us more time to actually get real live insight from the players. That would have been cool to me, but I'm still happy to see whatever they do with the veto episode. And as far as the alumni are concerned that are going to be coming back, do we know if it's going to be a rotating panel or if it's just going to be just
I don't know. The press release said, and I talked about this with Taryn as well, it just said 3 alumni. I feel like the fact that it didn't say rotating, it doesn't close the door to it, but I feel like if it was rotating, they would have made mention of it, right?
So it's interesting. This seems to be another one of those shows, the reality TV shows that is trying to capitalize on the podcasting market, because they realize that there are so many podcasts out there that cover these shows already. I don't know if they're going to do anything that's particularly different than what podcasters do. I don't know if they can do anything that's particularly different than what podcasters do, but it's always interesting to see alumni come back and talk about experiences that they've already been through. So I just hope that it's a nice mix. Whoever the 3 are, I hope it's a nice mix of people that are, going to be personality forward, maybe game forward, maybe just intellectually forward, whatever have you. I just want it to be a nice, interesting flow and not just random people that we're not going to care to hear from. So, and we all know who those people are.
Yeah. Liana, any thoughts you have?
I mean, whatever. Let's see what happens.
I could not think of a better way to enter a Big Brother season. Sincerely, I'm like, whatever. Let's see what happens. We're all going to be watching it anyway,
Exactly. Let's just try and see what happens. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like. I'm very curious to see what the 90 minutes looks like. But whatever.
Well, next week we've got 90 minutes plus another 90 minutes. After we did the brief little experiment of a 2-episode finale in 47, 48 we'll be back to what we're used to, which is 1 3-hour extravaganza where we'll get our 5th place finisher, we will get our final 4 fire making, we'll get our final tribal council, we will get our winner, and we'll get our live after show. I will also caution people right now, if you do not wish to be spoiled, there is apparently some revealing information that came out through a recent commercial that CBS aired. And the stuff is out there. So I would say try to put on those earmuffs and blinders as best you can between now and Wednesday if you do not wish to be spoiled. But regardless, we're going to be back next weekend recapping whatever's going to go down, whether Joe is able to, overcome this momentary stumbling block and dominate in the end the way we figure, whether Kyle's or Camilla are able to sort of swoop in underneath and take it, or whether Eva or Mitch might be able to, come from behind edit-wise and showcase their beautiful stories and earn $1 million in the end. Yeah. It should be a really interesting finish no matter what, as we also then look ahead to what is coming next. So we have one podcast left, but of course, if you have any last-minute game ideas you want us to put into our finale podcast, rhapb&b@gmail.com or hashtag rhapb&b on social media. And again, bit.ly/buffersnuff48 for all these outfits that we so lovingly talked about over the course of this podcast. Special thanks to Scott St. Pierre and the entire team behind the scenes at RHAP for packaging this podcast for your eyes and ears. And, well, from America, because if you're listening to the audio version, his voice is about to infiltrate your eardrums with that beautiful, infectious melody of the B&B theme song. Liana and I will be back next week covering, believe it or not, the finale of Survivor 48. Until next time, everybody, we will check you out at your next stay.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.